When my granddad first built our lake cabin 50 years ago, it was nothing more than a fishing shack on a quiet private cove. Over the years, my family added a dock, expanded the cabin, and kept it as our weekend getaway. Then, the developers showed up, carved up the forest into luxury lots, and slapped an HOA right at the edge of our land. First, I didn't care. My family's deed specifically excluded our land from the subdivision. We owned the cove, the beach, and the dirt road leading up to it. But the new neighbors, they thought they owned the whole lake. Enter Marcia, HOA president, self-appointed queen of the shoreline, and the biggest busybody you'll ever meet. She'd show up at my dock at 7 a.m. to tell me my pontoon boat was ruining the view for the other residents. Once she left a note in my tackle box demanding I limit guest noise after dusk. I always shut her down politely. But one summer, Marcia decided she'd had enough of my rundown cabin ruining property values. She knocked on my door with her husband in tow and an offer typed up in fancy HOA letterhead. Sell the cabin to the HOA for half its market value, or they'd pursue legal options. I laughed. Marcia, I'm not selling the cabin my granddad built. Good luck with your legal options. Turns out her legal options meant harassment. She fined me for unapproved shoreline structures. My dock, older than she claimed my fire pit was a safety hazard. She even told my guests they couldn't park on my driveway because the road was HOA controlled. I knew better. My easement gave me sole access. That's when I decided to set my trap. You see, I'm an attorney, not a fancy corporate one. Just a quiet real estate lawyer who knows how to write a mean easement clause. Years ago, when the developers tried to rope my land into the HOA, I had written a special covenant into my deed. Any attempt by the HOA to claim or coerce my land triggered a reversion clause that would force a legal review of the entire subdivision's shoreline rights. In plain English, if they pushed me, I could file to re-examine the HOA's claim to their fancy private beach, and half the neighborhood's docks would suddenly be in a gray area. They'd lose their exclusive lake access overnight. Marcia didn't know that. So when she called 911 one weekend, claiming I was illegally occupying HOA land and refusing to vacate, she set the whole thing in motion. The deputy came out. Same guy who'd fished off my dock as a kid. He asked for my deed, read the reversion clause, and whistled. He told Marcia she was trespassing, not me. She lost it, screaming about community property and eminent domain. He calmly explained that she could leave on her own or he'd arrest her for harassment. 2 days later, I filed the reversion clause paperwork with the county clerk. Within a month, the HOA got a polite letter from my law office explaining that any further attempts to push me off my land would risk opening the entire shoreline to public access review. Suddenly, Marcia's fines disappeared. The threat stopped. She tried to rally the other homeowners to sue me, but when they learned that pushing it could blow up their private beach and dock access, they shut her down fast. Marcia ended up resigning as HOA president for health reasons. The new board sent me a fruit basket and promised to respect historical properties. Now my cabin stands quiet as ever. My kids swim off that same old dock. My granddad's fishing gear still hangs by the porch. And every sunset reminds me that sometimes the best defense is a trap you laid decades ago. Some people think they run the lake. They forget the lake remembers who was here first.